There are a lot of uncertainties this season, but the good vibes aren't one of them. Jakob Pelletier is back on a 1-year deal.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jess Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Today, we're going to be talking about Jakob Pelletier's 1-year extension, along with expectations and where we can put him in the lineup, because there's some, again, uncertainties here. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. We are back to daily shows next week, and I couldn't be more excited. Hockey is back, and we're here to cover you Monday through Friday, your team every day. 2019 26th overall draft pick, Jakob Pelletier, has signed a 1-year deal with the Calgary Flames. This is a 2-way deal, so he does have his NHL salary and then the AHL salary. Obviously, this is a prove-it deal. He has not had the smoothest start to his NHL career. I think a lot of it, last year was supposed to be his year, but he suffered an injury at the hands of the Seattle Kraken in the last preseason game. And it was over before it even started. He came back in March and just did not have a really a leg to stand on. He had 3 points in 13 games, and Huska ended up, he made the decision to send him back down to the AHL, and that's not a surprise. And I don't think that should be looked at negatively. He did miss a good chunk of the season. He's coming back from an injury, and then he immediately got dinged up by Jacob Trouba. Like, there were a lot of factors that went into last season, and I'm sure many of us remember he started under Daryl Sutter, and we know that Sutter does not like playing children, the youth. There was not going to be a youth movement as long as Daryl Sutter was in this locker room. Thankfully, that's not the case. And we've seen how Ryan Huska coaches the young players in Connor Zary and Martin Pospisil. Like, we saw that last year firsthand. Pelletier did make some mistakes. I mean, these are, you make mistakes and you learn from them. He was not given the opportunity to necessarily learn from them his rookie season. He, along with all the other young players, had a very short leash. I remember I was out at the Kings and Flames game in LA, and Pellettier turned the puck over, and it was already like a 6-2 game in like the second period, and I didn't see him on the ice for the rest of the game. Is that an effective way to coach? Some people. Everyone responds differently, but that is a different conversation. But I think he'll do well under Huska. I mean, you are coming in, you know you're small. You know you have something to prove. The odds are kind of stacked against you. That is something that fuels a player. And really most human beings. Like, I'm going out of my way to make sure you know that you're wrong, and that I am good enough to be on this roster, that I am good enough to do this job, that I am good enough baker. I don't know. Like, you need to eat your words, essentially, if you ever doubted me. And I think that that's, I don't necessarily know if that's how, like, spiteful these athletes are, but they're determined. They are going to achieve that goal. And, 10 points in 37 career games, really not great. But when you remember all the benching, the injury, re-aggravating the injury thanks to Trouba. You are, there's a lot of factors there that make it look like he just sucks. Like he's just a bum. But I don't think that's the case. We've seen him play, and especially at the AHL level. He's quick with it. He has strong hockey IQ. He can skate. He can, move the puck. He can do what you need him to do wherever he is in the lineup. And that's what I like. I think it's going to be great. And I'll talk about this more a little bit later, but I really like that there are players coming up that you can just plug and play. And I think that a great example of an older player, would be Kuzmenko. I think Kuzmenko does that well. I think that Kadri does that well. And, Pelletier is kind of coming in and taking the reins in that spot. So I am excited. I want to see him and Huberdeau play together again. I thought that those two were pretty solid together. I think that the French Connection is called the French Connection for something other than their great bond together, and both being from Quebec. I think that they are, there is that on ice chemistry. It's successful on ice chemistry, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. Does Anthony Mantha center? Can we get like an all French Canadian line? Like, is that something we can just do for content? But no, like in all seriousness, I think that this is good. It's a prove it year. He needs to come in strong out of camp. He needs to make the NHL roster. If he gets sent down, that really isn't necessarily a bad thing. We saw it with Coronado last year, and he was nearly a point per game player in the AHL. Development is development. And coming up next, we are going to talk about those expectations and just what is realistic for Jakob Pelletier's more than likely first full season in the NHL. But before we do that, we are going to take a quick break here, and we will be right back after this. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your job more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. I'm so excited to be back to daily shows next week because that means hockey is like here and we're going to start getting, fun, just ridiculous tweets from everyone watching, live tweeting games, new reaction pictures, you name it. That's what's fun about hockey and the community that we've created wherever you are on the internet. But let's talk about Jakob Pelletier's expectations. This is more than likely going to be his first full NHL season. We were supposed to get that last year. He was robbed of it. We were robbed of it. But this may be okay because we got Connor Zary and Martin Pospisil. So, we got to see how Huska works with the younger kids and this group of guys. I think that's cool because then you kind of get to, I don't want to say weasel your way in, but you know what you're expecting with this coach, and you're not getting someone that is just going to bench you for a turnover or for whatever, a missed goal, something like that. This it is imperative that he makes he's a standout performer at camp. He absolutely needs to be. This is, his opportunity. This could be his last opportunity as a Flame but this could be his last opportunity in a Flames uniform if he does not prove to the organization that he has it in him. Because I don't think that the Flames are just going to hold on to players for the sake of holding on to them. Pelletier is a good player. There are certain scenarios where prospects just don't thrive in the environment and that they were drafted into. And I don't blame the prospect for that, because you don't have control over external factors, and, coaching changes, the organizational needs change over time. Like, you're a player. You only can control what you can control. And we've seen this happen in places before. I hope that's not the case here, because I would love to see him part of this team for a long time, because I think he is something special. And I am always going to root for an undersized player. I do not care. He's small, he's scrawny, he's not scrappy. I don't think he can fight, but he embodies underdog. And I think there's something special about that. You root for them more. Again, needs to have a strong camp. I would foresee him making the NHL roster. I would assume so. But let's look at this like he plays, let's say, 60 games. I want to see 10 to 15 goals. Okay? I'm not expecting him to go out there and be a 20-25 goal scorer. I think that that's incredibly unrealistic for someone who has not established themselves in the NHL, whose AHL stats are good, but they're not, you're not going to immediately make that jump and see like Connor Zary numbers. And I mean, the unexpected can always happen, but I think we need to temper those expectations. There are a million reasons why this lineup, why this roster probably will not make the playoffs. And that's okay. But the point going forward is to go out there every night and give it your best effort. And, for a young guy to come in and these are the circumstances of, your first full season, you're not a competitive team, go out there and make it fun. Have fun. You don't have to do anything flashy, but Peltletier just has such a good attitude about him that it's infectious. And we've talked about that since he played in that 2022-2023 season. He's just like the good vibes per 60, always off the chart with him. You don't have to worry about that. And sure, he's not going to be sunshine and rainbows all the time, but I think he's a very authentic person and does lift the room up a lot and keep that energy there when it probably wouldn't be otherwise. I think that there's obviously going to be a lot of youth in this lineup. They're going to be integrating him into this. I don't really foresee a world where Walker Dewar is in the lineup more than him. I think that the Walker Dewar experiment has come to an end. It was fun for a little bit. And just like the Adam Ruzicka, at some point, you just got to move on. Do the player a favor and yourself. Let him in. Let someone else in. And there really is no shame if he does get sent back down, right? Because you're getting your NHL reps in. That is what you need. That is what you want. That is the ultimate goal. And you're playing at that level. And you're hoping you do it consistently and do it well. If not, that's why the AHL is there. You still might need a little extra time to cook. And that's okay. development is development, whether it's the AHL or the NHL. I am a big proponent of, not rushing development because things can happen. Which is why I was so shocked last season when Marty and Connor Zary had such the seasons that they did. I didn't think when they got called up, I was like, this is just going to be a short stint. And I thought Pospisil was going to get sent down first out of the two, simply because of the time he missed to injury. I was wrong. And I will eat my words there. I have no problem with that. However, I don't want this to be a situation where they just keep him around and he's only playing 7 minutes a night. That's not worth it. It's not worth it to him. It does more harm than good long term for the player. And it's like the situation we kind of saw with Coronado last year. You might be in between, but you might be playing well at the NHL level, but you might be able to really do more and have more opportunity with the Wranglers. And that's fine. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think that's good because you are continuing to show forward motion, forward progress. Like, everyone is going to have a little bit of regression at some point. I'm hoping that Pelletier's was when he came back from that injury, and we can circle that and say, that's when that was, and we're moving forward. If not, no big deal. Again, every player is going to regress, especially a player who has not played an extensive period of time in the NHL, who had a serious injury last year that was re-aggravated shortly thereafter being cleared to play, and then someone that is playing on an NHL roster consistently. So coming up next, we're going to wrap up the show with where could he slot in, because we know that a majority of these spots are taken, and the lines are going to look so different this year than they did last year, and that's okay because this is part of it. It's even Blake Coleman said there's been a lot of turnover, and that is not a secret. But we will be right back after a quick word from our pals at Game Time. I am so excited for hockey to be back because, number one, I'm going out to Calgary in less than a month for the home opener. And two, I can cross more arenas off of my bucket list, and Game Time helps make that possible. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I greatly appreciate when everything's just done for me. I like that. I don't want to have to click there, compare this, compare that. I want something that can do that for me, and Game Time is that app. You can get all-in pricing as well. You just have to click the little toggle there, and you can just see the view from your seat with their panoramic view, and the all-in pricing, like I mentioned, with the toggle, as well as the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. That's right. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Thanks, everyone, for making Locked On Flames part of your day. I greatly appreciate it. There's a lot of hockey podcasts that you could listen to, and I am very happy to be in your headphones or your car, wherever I am. This past week has been a lot for everyone, and I just have to say the community and the comments has been so nice, and the DMs have been very wonderful. And it's just, I appreciate what we have here. So thank you. Let's continue the positivity and the kindness through the season. It's what Pelletier would want, right? He's all sunshine and good vibes, and that's what we are here to bring. Last season, we saw Pelletier get a lot of his minutes in with Kevin Rooney and Dryden Hunt, and that was a really good line. I liked them together. It's a fourth line, right? I feel like there are 2 fourth lines in hockey. Your very old veterans that are either on expiring contracts or UFAs you picked up. Old UFAs that just do not want to retire. Or you have a line similar to the Flames here, where you have 2 younger players with sometimes a younger player or a veteran, and not necessarily a washed veteran either. But I thought that they played well together. They had good chemistry. They read the plays well, had strong, passes, and defensively, it might not have been fantastic, but they still fought hard every time they were on the ice, and it does not matter who they were up against. And I think that's important because, when you look at like the Flames' fourth line against an opponent's fourth line, obviously, like, they're not always going to match up, right? Like, we know that. But I don't necessarily think that the Flames' fourth line is the most skilled out of the 32 teams. Please, let's be serious here. But they're still getting minutes. They are getting the opportunity to enhance their skills. And I think that this is where Pelletier starts the season. He is not going to be a career fourth liner. I don't think that's the case at all. But I think this is where you need to lay the foundation for him. And as time goes on, I think you're going to see him moved around. You're going to be able to slide him up here and maybe limit the minutes for a guy coming back from injury, or if a guy's is out sick and injured, okay, you put Pelts up there, and then whatever the case may be, you call up another guy. Like, there's room here. Nothing is set in stone, and I think that that's very important to remember. Not all of this is none of this is permanent. None of it. I think that this is going to be a situation that is fluid. You're going to see players, move up and down the lineup regardless. I mean, last season, there were a lot of questions about why Dylan Dubé was still in the lineup. It just felt like there was no reason for him to be in the lineup and taking away a spot from a younger player. And if the Flames do run into that situation this year, I really hope that they're not afraid to bench someone or scratch that veteran or scratch the player that's underperforming. Like, I don't really know what benefit it does for anyone, especially the kids you're trying to develop. I feel like we're going to have a situation like I just mentioned. Start off on the fourth line, low responsibility. You're not going to be seeing a ton of time. And maybe he plays some time on, the second power play unit or the PK, whatever the case is. I do want to see him moved up in the lineup, probably by American Thanksgiving. That's, about a month, little over a month into this season. And, you've had time to get settled, get situated, get comfortable with your line mates, get reacclimated with the travel schedule and the training and the, in-season work is a lot different than your off-season work. And I want to see him in a middle six role this year. I think that, limits. I don't want to say limits. I don't think that's the right word I'm looking for. But those are reasonable expectations. If he spends time on the fourth line, he spends time on the fourth line. If he gets sent back down, he gets sent back down. Development is not linear. Sharon Govich's development was not the same as Jakob Pelletier. And, you can't compare two players in their developmental journey. I mean, you could really technically kind of argue that Sharon Govich was kind of like a late bloomer at 25. It feels ridiculous to call someone a late bloomer at that age. But my point still stands. He's going to play on the fourth line to start the season. And if there's a reason why he doesn't, I'm very interested. Nothing can really come to mind unless something happens during the preseason, which please stop. We don't need any of that. I want to see the season start there and move forward. It doesn't have to be fast, just consistent. I don't know what the right word is. Consistent progress. Like, you want to take those baby steps to get to that, your next promotion in line and in line mates, in responsibilities, and limit the likelihood of you being sent back down. Personally, would love to see him play the full season with the Flames, but I know that's highly unlikely. However, the good vibes will be around. They are sticking around in Calgary. And that will do it for me here today on Locked On Flames. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you have a fantastic day and evening. It's nice to share some good news around here for once. I hope everyone's doing well. I hope you're, enjoying the start of fall. I've already seen pumpkins out on people's porches. And until next time, stay safe, stay warm, stay cool, stay dry, stay hydrated, and remember to be kind.